Hi there, I'm Julie Tam, managing broker of LYN Realty in Houston, Texas. Thank you for joining me for Smarter Real Estate, weekly on Wednesdays, where I teach you practical strategies to be a smarter buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord, and also take you along on some of my real estate adventures. Well, this week I am starting a new series that is called Tenant Horror Stories. This won't be a series that necessarily runs every week consecutively, but every few weeks or so, sometimes more often, I will tell some tenant horror stories, usually just a couple or a few stories, like 2 or 3 each time, to just kind of bring you into our world of what we have to deal with. Now, let me just tell you this. I have so many stories. Some of them are not horror stories per se, but just, annoying or mean tenants, just difficult tenants. We deal with this literally, virtually every day, okay? I could do this show like every day of the year and have material for you, unfortunately. But we also have a lot of good tenants. And here's the thing. Obviously, the vast majority of our tenants pay their rent on time, are not unreasonable, don't damage the properties, etc. That's why we're in business, right? And that's why folks who own investment properties are by and large profitable and quite profitable, some of us. And so that's why we have a business that we do and we continue in this line of work. We manage more than 300 rental properties. Almost all of them are residential. We have a small commercial building, office building. But anyway, we also own some properties ourselves, but a vast majority of them are owned by other landlords. So anyway, I am going to just tell you a few stories. These are not the worst of them. The ones I'm going to tell today are just more like tenants that are either unreasonable or lying. But in the future, I'll have more stories. I'm going to go ahead and tease you with some little titles that I made up to go along with the future stories. The stories are not made up, just the titles I created to just, make them, just to name them and make them come to life, okay? So in the future, I will be telling you about The Dirty Secret, Colorful But Ugly, The Payment Blame Game, Mucus Monster. Doesn't that just sound disgusting as it is? Just wait till you hear about that one. And this one I originally titled Not an Inch of Clean because that's appropriate. But then I thought, you know what? It's actually beyond that. Because basically when I went in, I asked myself, did something die here? So that's going to be the title of that one. And then finally, Murder and Maggots. Ooh, can you imagine? All right, here we go. And these are stories that I myself encountered. Okay, these are, and then our staff, our other agents and broker associates and our make-ready coordinators and other folks have encountered their own horror stories. But anyway, these are the ones that I've encountered so I can tell them to you firsthand with all the details. Before we get into horror stories, I'll just tell you a couple of pretty cool, interesting tenants we've had over the years include a Major League Baseball player and a world famous opera singer who has sung with the likes of Andrea Bocelli live on stage. Okay, so those were pretty cool. Anyway, in these stories, we will not be revealing any names of anyone or addresses or really detailed information to where anyone could figure out who they are at all. So it's completely anonymous for the protection of everyone's privacy, which is the ethical and legal thing to do. But there's nothing wrong with telling some stories. Property managers and realtors are allowed to do that. And in fact, it just kind of gives you a better picture of what this world of property management is like, and what we have to deal with. And I'm glad we actually make some money doing this line of work because it's very stressful and you have to try to not let it get to you sometimes. So anyway, and we shield all this for our landlords, right? They're our clients. We make money from them. We get paid by them to adhere to contractual obligations, to follow the lease, to follow the management agreement, to follow the Texas Property Code and do our jobs to a T in accordance with the laws in our state of Texas. All right. And so my arm's getting tired of holding this phone right now. Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm going to switch hands. All right. Clearly I need to work out. Okay, so let me tell you the first story. So, we had a horrible winter storm in Texas, and it really hit Houston hard. And our pipes and our power lines clearly were not prepared for that. This happened winter, early 2021. Anyway, So we had more than 55 properties that had broken pipes. Some of them were more minor, like a broken sprinkler outside, for example, or a pipe that was in over the garage, so it didn't cause as much damage inside the home. But most of them caused some sort of damage inside the home, and there were several cases that were quite major. Where ceilings collapsed, water and insulation just went all over the place onto the furniture of tenants and their belongings, and also ruining cabinets and walls and flooring inside the homes that belongs to the landlord. And amidst all this, we had sent out multiple emails updating tenants during this time. We know that there was a power outage and a water outage that was out of our control. Heck, my home experienced a power and water outage for 4 days. And anyway, you have to wait for the power companies to restore the power. And then as far as water, we had to wait for the city of Houston, in our case, and whatever other municipalities these homes were in, had to wait for those water departments or municipal utility districts to restore water. And of course, in some cases, if a pipe burst and the tenant had to turn off their water shut off to prevent more water from coming out, if they had water, then that was a scenario as well. But, we had a couple of tenants actually ask us if they could get free rent for the days that they were without power and without water. And, of course, the answer is no. The landlord is not obligated to provide free rent, especially because this was out of our control. This is an act of God, the winter storm. And the entire city and millions of people were in the same boat, and actually beyond, it was across the entire state, of Texas. And I didn't pay attention to what was going on in other states because our state was in dire straits as it was. But at the very least, that's the picture we were looking at. So yeah, it's not like the landlord caused it or there was any responsibility on our part. Then we had this. We had an urgent email from a tenant with a repair request amidst all these broken pipes and damage that we were responding to, that we emailed tenants to let them know that here's what we're facing. We've got more than 55 of our 300 plus properties that we are dealing with, repairs in. And so we are prioritizing the repairs that are the worst and have the most need in order to restore water first. And then we're going to go to the cosmetic repairs or repairs where, water doesn't need to be restored. People can still use the water. Maybe there was an outdoor pipe leak, at the sprinkler or something, and not something where the people could not use water inside their homes. Anyway, so, we told everyone, and this tenant, read the email, literally responded to the email with their urgent repair request. What was it? A burned light bulb. People, I can't make this stuff up, okay? First of all, the lease requires the tenant to change out burned light bulbs and other things like batteries for smoke alarms and thermostats and things like that. So we're not even responsible for changing out a burned light bulb. And oh, poor baby, he said that he couldn't reach the light bulb. It was up on the ceiling, not a 20-foot ceiling or anything, just a regular ceiling. I don't know the exact height, but having been in that property, I would venture to guess 8, 9, 10 feet max, So yes, of course, that would be his responsibility to change out the light bulb. So it's not ours, but regardless, really, perspective, people, perspective. Okay. And finally, we had, this is pretty common for people to lie in general, and tenants, of course, especially if it means they can get out of paying certain things or certain responsibilities. Well, this tenant had told us they were going to move out on a particular date. Okay. They were sent a vacate notice for non-payment of rent. We gave them 3 days to move out. They didn't move out after 3 days, but stayed several more days. I'm going to just make up dates here, again, not to provide specific details, but I'm going to say these dates so that way, you can follow the story. So they were going to move out on January 16th. Okay, they told us that. And we were like, okay, well, at least they're finally going to leave. We don't have to take them to court and do a formal eviction and all of that. And let me just do a side note, because I know that some of y'all may be asking, well, we're in a pandemic, are y'all not evicting people or whatnot? Plenty of people are being evicted by plenty of landlords across the United States, because in some cases, especially, the tenants really are not in dire financial straits. They did not even attempt to apply for financial assistance. They were not paying. Some of them stopped paying even before the pandemic began. began. And, and some of them, we tried to work with them on payment plans, and they promised they would pay certain amounts at certain times. They did not follow through. We even, waived late fees for a few months. And, still some for several months, and, still they were not paying. And when you have a financial issue long before the pandemic hit, then clearly it's not due to the pandemic. Anyway, so that aside, just so you know, we are following the legal, procedures properly, and we're not doing anything that would be out of the ordinary as to what most landlords are doing across the country. And then specifically, we are in Houston, Harris County, greater Houston area, which encompasses a few different counties and smaller municipalities as well. So yes, back to the story. They said that they were going to move out on January 16th. And then January 16th came. They sent an email saying, actually, we will be moving out next week. So a week later. So January 23rd. All right. Several days after January 23rd, they emailed saying that they had moved out on January 16th. They left the keys and the garage remotes in the house. Wah, wah. Okay, first of all, you're not allowed to leave the keys and the garage remotes in the house for us to retrieve them, okay? The rules, the law, the lease, they say that you are supposed to return the keys and the remotes to the landlord or property manager in our case. And we specify that it's the office. So you either need to mail it to us or you need to bring it to us or have someone deliver them to us, one way or another. This person had a really bad attitude with us and said that, well, you know what? We would want to meet you halfway, but you didn't answer the phone when we called. First of all, we get so many calls, we cannot answer every single call that comes in when it comes in. That's why we have something called voicemail. You leave a message and then we can return your call. And we return all calls and emails, either by emailing or calling you back. Anyway, so They said that, first of all, we wanted to meet you halfway somewhere. It's not our duty or obligation to go meet one of, however many tenants are moving out that month somewhere halfway or anywhere. It's your duty per the rules to bring your keys to the office. And the lease says that you will be continued to be charged rent until we receive your keys. So technically, we could just say, nope, you got to go back to the house, retrieve those keys and bring them to us. We didn't do that because we knew that this tenant was not going to do that, and we wanted to take possession of the house and not let things drag on any further and have to send them to collection, which we will if they don't pay off their balance. But the point is even if we send them to collection and they don't pay, then the landlord loses out on that money. So we want to make our own diligent effort to get access to the house ASAP. So we went to, sent our make ready coordinator out to get the keys at the house, directly. And here's another thing. Remember, they said they were going to move out on the 16th, and then they said, oh, we're actually going to move out on the 23rd, so next week. And then after the 23rd, they emailed and claimed that they had already moved out on the 16th. And I said, well, if you had already moved out on the 16th, why would you email us to say that we're actually going to move out on the 23rd? Like, you emailed us after the 16th saying that you were going to move out on the 23rd, which means you hadn't moved out on the 16th. Otherwise, you wouldn't have emailed us to tell us you were moving out in the future. So again, a lie to say that they had moved out earlier than they really had, to try to get out of paying rent for those extra several days. So we actually had the right to charge them all the way until the day we got out to the property, which was very soon after they told us they had moved out. To retrieve those keys. So yes, in this business, and I'm kind of rolling my eyes a lot because we're talking about people that we don't even represent. We don't represent the tenants. We represent the landlords. We're here to protect them. And you know what? We get so much business and repeat business and continue to build our portfolio of management because landlords like that we enforce the rules, that we follow the signed contract documents and, make sure that the tenants do and pay what they're obligated to do and pay, because that is our job. And that's the right thing to do. You wouldn't go to the grocery store or the pharmacy or the gas station and just grab food from the grocery store, grab medicine from the pharmacy, or fill up gas and just leave without paying, and then that would be okay. No, someone's going to come after you, arrest you, put you in jail, etc. So you can't just live in the house for free. This is someone's home that they have allowed you to move into, to live and to pay. And it's a mutually beneficial agreement. You get a lovely home to live in and everything that comes with that home. And then the landlord gets rent, which is collected by us. Okay, so just to kind of wrap things up there, what was I going to say? I was on a train of thought and then I totally forgot. on this one. So they didn't pay. I had a final thought I really wanted to share so that you guys have full understanding. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Is having been in this business for so long, our company has been in business since 1981. I grew up as a kid working in the office, and then I came back here almost 10 years ago now, to work, professionally full time. Anyway, so there are certain categories of tenants. Ones that are really good, don't give you any problems, are very reasonable. They make repair requests, and they are understanding. They pay their rent on time, and, we just don't really have any problems with them. Some tenants, you just never stop hearing from them. Their rent is late. They make repair requests. They're unreasonable. They will, make a repair request that's not even an urgent matter, and they'll contact us back the next day, like, oh, someone hasn't come out yet. And it's like, well, you know what? That's not a reasonable amount of time to demand that someone already have come out to make the repair. Courts will say, in general, that 7 days is actually a reasonable amount of time, even if it's an AC being out or a water heater not working, etc. I mean, those are major appliances that can cause discomfort when they're not functioning. And even then, the courts say a reasonable amount of time is roughly 7 days. And it's give or take depending on the situation. And especially during like a winter storm situation where there's a huge shortage of material and labor, then the courts would venture to say that 7 days is really too little time for landlords to respond, that we would actually need more time, because there's just, sometimes it's impossible. For us, we started responding right away. And so we got most people taken care of within that 7 day period. But there were a couple of stragglers that, it took longer just because there were so many contractors that were tied up, and really people were running out of plumbing supplies. I mean, the shelves were being cleared off. So anyway, I'm getting a little long-winded here, but essentially the different types of tenants. So the good one I mentioned, and then the ones that are just unreasonable and all that. There's also a category of tenants within the unreasonable bad category that basically lie. And even though the proof is right in front of them in writing, they will claim that there's no proof, and they will literally, try to go against what is in writing. So if I say that my shirt is blue, which clearly it's blue, they'll say, nope, it's pink, and you can't prove it. That's ridiculous, right? Well, those are the types of people we deal with. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll have much more in future episodes, and hope you will like, subscribe, and send me any feedback or comments, and continue to watch Smarter Real Estate weekly on Wednesdays. Have a great week. I'm Julie Tam. Bye-bye.